Alright guys, Hayzink here, welcome back to the channel for another Street Fighter Duel video. So, because last month I put out a few different kind of tier lists, priority lists and stuff like that, one thing that people were asking me to do was put out a priority list for divination summons, okay? Now, to be honest, I didn't do that at the time because I felt like, you know, these tier lists sort of cover that for people, but as people are requesting it, I am going to talk about it. It isn't necessarily going to be what you would expect, however, right? Because when it comes to divination summons, I do find it to be a bit of it causes me a bit of a dilemma, right? Because divinations are actually ultimately not that great, right? I'll explain why very quickly, just as a point of comparison here, right? Let's look at what would probably be classed as a DPS unit, right? So this is a DPS in divination summons. You see it's Gen, 43 million, there you go. What's Gen missing? Right? Let's compare that to another unit who is of the same class, but within the special summon, which means he gets soul power. Okay? Soul power, as you can see, makes a vast difference to the amount of damage that these units can do. Okay, so because of that, when it comes to divination summons, DPS units, I personally do not think you should be prioritizing. Okay, so I'm telling you now, when we talk about who I think is going to represent value for you in divination summons, you're not going to see DPSs being discussed because you are not going to get the same kind of value from them, the same kind of performance from them as you can get from units who are available in the special summon, and they are soul powered obviously. So that is why we're predominantly going to talk about units in the divination pool who will actually bring you long-term value. Okay, so let's go and have a look. When it comes to prioritizing summons in the divination pool, who should you go for first? Okay, in my opinion, first and foremost, if you are already working on special summon units, finish them. Okay, so if you've got the likes of a Vega, an Oni, an Evil Ryu, summon more copies of them using your divination tokens. Okay, they are going to give you more oomph, they're going to give you more power on your account, they're going to help you push content because they can hit harder, score better, do more. Okay, except if we're talking about Aidon, right? But outside of that, PvP and things, these are the units that are going to help push your account. Okay, units like her, units like him, units like her, they're not going to do that for you. Okay, so they are not worth prioritizing. So rather than focusing on who you shouldn't prioritize, who should you prioritize? Who should be the units that you go for first and foremost in this divination pool? Honestly, it's not the most exciting choice in the world, but it is the best choice because it will bring you the longest term value for your account. And there's really two units that stand out more than any others. Three units, okay? And it's going to be these three units here. And I personally would probably say that they are somewhat interchangeable. However, the order that we're going to talk about them in is probably going to be the order that I would say go for them in, okay? So your number one priority should be Gen. Gen is a fantastic support unit. He will enable you to push higher numbers. He is going to enable your team builds to do more. Okay, he will help you with factional units who maybe are not the most flashy. He will help you with special summon units. He will help your numbers go higher. Simple as that. He will do that for you, okay? He is a fantastic support unit. He is going to do very good for you on your team. He will allow you to do, like I've already said, higher numbers, which is what you're looking for, okay? This guy is top notch. He's very, very good, very, very solid, and he is the unit who, if you were looking for who should I start fresh on, who should I go for now, it's going to be Gen, okay? Now, The reason that support units are the ones who I say you should be prioritising from this divination pool, support units have a unique role within the game, okay? Unlike DPS units, like for example, Trendy Kami, units like that, support units generally do not age out over time because they're always going to provide buffs, they're always going to provide supports. Sure, later down the line, you may find you get other support units. However, these support units are still valid, they're still good, they're still going to help you push numbers on your teams. Whereas, if you've got a subpar DPS, you've really not got any scope to use them within your team builds, so they become a little bit pointless, okay? That's why, if you prioritise these supports, you are going to see yourself go further with them. And the next two units that I would say you want to go for are also going to be support units. The difference is they do slightly different things and they do some of the same things, okay? So when it comes down to it, which one of these two you prioritise really does come down to you, okay? Because I wouldn't say you would use one of these units all of the time. However, in certain teams, she's going to do more for you than this other unit, okay? But first up, you've got Athlete Chun. Now, Athlete Chun, I do not actually think is as usable as Diviner Rose, okay? And I'll explain why in a minute. But the strength that Chun has in certain situations makes her more valuable than Diviner Rose. So it's a very strange situation between the two, okay? The reason that Chun is so good is she is one of the only counters for Vega. The new Vega, she is one of the only counters for him. So in PvP, she could be absolutely essential for you because she can literally block ranged attacks, right? She can do that. She can straight up block ranged attacks, meaning that if anyone is coming to try and hit you with that Vega, it's not going to work, okay? She's going to block them and you're not going to take damage, right? Now, also as part of her kit, you see here, she's got these vortexes. They increase attack, so she's going to boost your attack and effect resistance, so you're not going to take as many effects. There you go here, it'll absorb 25% of the damage, meaning it'll take less damage. When a wind vortex is on the field, it increases friendly fighters' attack by 20% and effect resist by 50%. And when it's on the field, it absorbs 28% of damage received by allied fighters. Now, if we go here as well, you can see that the wind vortex, I think it's when you get your cars, it's one of them. Can't actually see where it is on the skills, right, but it is definitely here. There we go. Wind vortex dissipates after 4 hits from ranged attacks have been taken. This is it. This will actually block ranged attacks, right? Completely block ranged attacks. Which is why it works so well against Vega, right? And she is going to do those other things for you, like boosting, healing and stuff as well. Which means that she is absolutely fantastic on support, okay? And if you are also, maybe you've not got the space to run her on the team, maybe you want to run someone else, then as an assist, she's also fantastic. Every time a unit crits, she is going to give them healing, which is obviously a great thing to have in your arsenal. The reason that I'm saying that it's a toss-up for me between her and Diviner Rose is massively slept on. I actually think that Diviner Rose might be the best healer in the game, but she's the most slept on healer in the game, okay? This is why I think Diviner Rose is so good. Now, if we look at Diviner Rose, you'll see she's got this passive called Soul Reflux, okay? So when Fate Divination or Life Divination triggers, there's a 15% chance to refill the super combo gauge by 50. That's just a bonus, right? We're not really focusing on that. And it does go up to 20%, okay? She can boost it up to 20%. But that's not the main focus of why she's kind of good, in my opinion, right? Diviner Rose. First off, you want her with her equipment. When you've got her equipment, you can see here, this is what she does. When she does Life Divination, if a target already, hang on, upon unleashing Fate Divination, so when she unleashes Fate Divination, she will give your allies life divination. So she's doing both of the things, right? At level 20, when she does life divination, she's giving all of her allies fate divination, or all the enemies fate divination, right? Which we'll clear up in a minute. But the important part is here, right? Upon triggering Soul Reflux, increase all allies' crit damage by 12% until the end of battle. Stacks up to 5 times. That's 60% crit damage, right? Now, if you're running Diviner Rose, you're generally going to run this. You're going to run her using the C1, right? So let's look at what the C1 does. Remember, bear in your head, or remember in your head, she has got full soul power at this, not full soul power, full fighting spirit at this point, so we'll talk about what her fighting spirit is doing as well, right? The skill takes effect in part 1, heal all allies for HP equal to 56% of Diviner Rose's attack, and then grant them life divination status. So remember, life divination status, when you get that, once it triggers, she will also give the enemy fate divination. We've seen that within the fighting spirit, right? Life divination has a 50% chance to dispel debuffs. It can stack up to 3 times. So what does life divination do? Upon taking damage, recover HP equal to 92% of her attack, with a 30% chance to dispel 1 buff, which we know is boosted to 50%, right? It triggers 2 times and then it ends, but that's boosted to 3 times. But each time you do it, it resets, right? But remember, when you cast this, you automatically cast this, okay? Deal damage equal to 102% of attack and inflict fate divination on all enemies. Has a 50% chance to dispel buffs upon triggering. Can trigger up to 3 times. So, you've got both of these giving you a 50% chance to dispel debuffs. You've got this one giving you damage to the enemy. You've got this one healing you as a party member. And you will trigger this. You will literally trigger this, because every time you get hit, you are going to trigger life divination. That's what happens as soon as you get hit. So every single time you get hit, you are adding crit damage on to your entire party, okay? And if you go ahead and build her cars, which I've still got 3 of them to get, but I've got the first 3, which was important. You can see upon triggering life divination, which you're always going to trigger, you will also heal the target for HP equal to 37% of Rose's attack per second for 4 seconds. So you've got the heal, you've got the boosted heal, and on top of that, you've then got an additional slowly gaining heal as well. So you're healing a lot from Rose, right? And once you boost her to have all of her cars, because of how her kit works, when you are casting your C1, you're going to trigger your life divination, and at that point you are going to get your soul divination, which is basically your bonus, and that is going to give you your 6/6. You'll get your 6/6, which is upon triggering fate divination, also deal true damage to the target equal to 52% of Diviner Rose's attack per second. So as a support unit, you're getting healing, you're getting crit damage boosting, and she's also doing damage. And the fact is, her healing is scaled off of attack. Okay, so having attack related, I mean, you can't really have attack related things on this unit, but you know what I'm saying? She is going to benefit you greatly. She's not going to sit on your team like someone who maybe say poison. All poison's really doing is buffing you. Right, that's what she's great at, right? She is going to buff you. But this unit, you can put her onto a team with someone like, say, Oni, who isn't the tankiest of units, and you're going to get that healing, you're going to get that buffing, and you're also going to be getting chip damage from this unit. You might be able to see now why I say I don't know who I actually prioritise, whether it's her or whether it's Chun-Li. I think slightly Chun-Li, simply because Chun-Li has a unique thing about her, which is blocking the range attacks, right? But that is really only going to come in clutch for very specific teams. Whereas if you are bossing PvP and things like that, to me Diviner Rose just fits right in. you know? And she's doing a lot more than someone like, say, Elena, because Elena is just healing, right? I'm talking about basic Elena. She's doing something more than probably even Summer Yang, right? Summer Yang's giving you shielding and some boosted damage and things, but I still feel like Rose, her kit, which again has been massively slept on, does do a lot more for you. Now, I would not put her before Gen, because Gen's gains are a lot bigger when it comes to boosting your team. But the thing about Rose is you can run her with Gen. So you can have Gen, Super, Rose, C1, then C2, C3. I mean, you can do that with Chun-Li as well, right? But I think you get more out of Rose in that regard than you would out of Chun-Li. I just think the biggest string in Chun-Li's bow is the fact that she is blocking that ranged damage. The only downside to Chun-Li when it comes to her vortexes is she doesn't actually put them at the front of the party. They tend to go in the middle of the party, which means the unit that is before that vortex will take ranged damage. Okay, so it's not like Honda's bullet wall, and you can achieve the same effect using Honda's bullet wall, right? It's just some people find Honda harder to slot into a team. So while what Chun-Li does isn't unique, it is still pretty damn clutch if you are trying to find a counter to the Vega setup in PvP. The main problem is you've got 3 teams. You don't know where your opponent is going to place that Vega team. So you have a 65% chance basically of choosing the wrong place, and then Chun-Li's doing nothing because she's not going to block that Vega. Whereas if you've got a fast team who is ramping through, I feel like because of boosting that crit damage, because of what she's doing for the team, because she's doing chip damage, then possibly Divina Rose would be a greater priority than Chun-Li. But I think that's really up to you guys to decide. So that's why I'm saying it's interchangeable, you know. I'm not like committing to one or the other. Overall, I would say that Gen is your number 1 pick. He is your number 1 pick. Then after that, it's a toss-up for you, depending on what you need. But it definitely is between one of these 2 units. I probably am leaning slightly more to Divina Rose, if I'm being honest. But I can totally see the argument for F-Chun because of what she does as well. So again, it's not set in stone. But once you venture beyond that, I honestly, genuinely, maybe other than Sagat, I'm not a fan of much of the divination pool. Because I'm assuming here that most of you guys have already got Bison done. So we're not even talking about Bison, right? But really, other than this guy, who is good, he is. But if you're running him as a shield or a tank, I don't see the point, honestly, because you've got Abel, you've got other Abel. If you've been focusing on your special summons, you've probably got Goken that you're building, and if you've got any kind of patience, just keep building Goken. Yes, he is good. Would I prioritise him? No. But I would certainly prioritise him before anyone else after you've summoned those 3 units that I mentioned. But ultimately, for this divination pool to really matter, they have to add soul power. That's a whole entire different thing though, that again we will revisit at some point, because they do seem to have forgotten that system actually exists. But what I'm locking in, rather than being a priority list for the entire divination pool, I'm simply going to focus on the top 3 units that I think you should summon from this, and that is going to be number 1, number 2, number 3, depending on what order you feel floats your boat more. I am leaning more towards Rose, being honest, but Chun-Li is totally a great choice. But number 1, first and foremost, get Gen done. That's it. Anyway guys, I've been Hayzink. Thanks for watching. I know it's not quite a priority list, which some of you were wanting, but honestly, I think my thoughts would be your priority should just be sit on your diamonds, buy free tickets a day, just keep buying free tickets a day, try and get those special summon units rather than these divination units, because honestly, genuinely, a lot of times you're probably going to be better off just running factional units and having good supports to make them work better, because a lot of these divination units just, they're not doing it. They're really not. And again, you're probably better off focusing on trying to get other unit types, because the divination pool is really suffering from not having soul power. But if you go with these support units, they are going to lift up the damage that you can do with your other units. So that's why I say focus on supports, go for these guys. They won't age out, they'll serve you in good stead, and you won't feel like you've wasted your tickets, your stones, or whatever you're using. Anyway, I've been Hayzink again. Catch you in the next one. Peace.